I wasn't expecting anyone at my door, so when I opened it and saw Jessie, my ex, standing there with that nervous little smile, my brain short-circuited. "Anthony," she said softly, like she'd been practicing it. "I've been thinking. I want us back. I made a mistake letting you go." My stomach dropped. What the actual hell? It had been months. We ended ugly. I thought I was free. And now here she was, looking at me like nothing had happened. I forced a smile, gripping the edge of the door like it could hold me up. Jessie, I don't know if that's..." And that's when I noticed it. Behind me, on the couch, plain as day, a shirt. Clearly not mine. My chest went tight. I stepped in front of it quickly, hoping she hadn't seen. My head was buzzing, trying to figure out what to say, how to breathe, how not to let the guilt show on my face. "Just think about it," Jessie said finally, reaching for my arm, her green eyes searching mine. "Please," I nodded too quickly. "Yeah, I'll think about it." I closed the door before she could say anything else, pressed my back against it, and let out the breath I'd been holding. And then, strong hands grabbed me. I barely had time to gasp before I was slammed against the door, lips crushing mine. Heat, desperation, teeth clashing. My pulse spiked. "Miss me?" a low voice murmured against my mouth. James, Jessie's brother, her straight brother, the one I'd been sneaking into bed with for months. Flashback, 3 years. I never thought I'd end up here. Not with her brother, not like this, but to understand, you have to know how it all started. Jessie and I met in college, completely by accident. She was tall, blonde, impossibly graceful, with green eyes that could make the sun feel dull. I was, well, me. Lean, quiet, awkward around the right people. And somehow she noticed me. We met in the library, of all places. She leaned over a pile of books I was trying not to topple and muttered, "You're holding those wrong." I wanted to die. I wanted to smile. I wanted to run. And somehow, she got all 3 out of me at once. From there, it was like a fire I didn't know existed. We spent every possible second together. Late-night coffees, stolen walks, messy mornings in our tiny apartment that smelled like her shampoo and cheap coffee. We were reckless in love, loud and messy, and so sure of ourselves. But nothing lasts forever. We clashed. Big. She wanted the world. I wanted less chaos, less drama. I couldn't keep up. I didn't want to hurt her, but I did anyway. The breakup was ugly. Not just "we're done" ugly. Screaming, doors slamming. Everything we'd ever shared turned bitter. I thought I'd finally breathe. Thought I'd finally be free. And for a while, I was. Until James showed up. I first noticed him after one of the family parties Jessie dragged me to, even post-breakup. After our breakup, I tried to cut all ties, but our social circles overlapped. Her family liked me too much, and I hated to hurt their feelings. While James, well, he was quiet, tall, blonde, athletic. Dangerous in a way that made my chest tighten. Everyone assumed he was straight. He dated girls, smiled at girls, laughed at jokes he probably didn't get. But that night, he caught me in the kitchen, alone. "You look like hell," he said casually. But there was something in his tone, something private, a spark. I laughed it off nervously, but he lingered. He asked me questions, more personal than anyone had a right to. Something about the way he watched me, like he could see past all the defenses I'd built, made me feel reckless, and I didn't stop him. It started with small touches, a hand on my shoulder, guiding me away from prying eyes, a brush against my arm that lingered too long. I knew it was wrong. Hell, I knew it was her brother. But when he kissed me that first time, one stolen, messy, desperate kiss in his bedroom, I gave in. Completely. It wasn't just physical. He was teasing, challenging, pulling things out of me I didn't even know were there. He was everything I shouldn't want. And everything I couldn't resist. That night was supposed to be a one-time mistake. It wasn't. That one night turned into weeks and then months. It started a few weeks after the breakup, but it was long enough to know I was addicted. Every party soon became a minefield of stolen glances. Every text from him made me shiver. He would corner me when Jesse's out of the room, push me into walls, kiss me so hard my head spun. I hated the secrecy, but I craved it. The danger was intoxicating. And the thing? He made me feel seen. More than Jesse ever had. More than anyone ever had. I wasn't just her ex or some rebound. With him, I was me. Untamed, reckless, alive. We've been at it for, maybe 6 months after the breakup. Long enough to know I'm addicted. And long enough that letting go feels like giving up the air I breathe. Every touch is fire. Every whisper in the dark is a promise I can't ignore. And now, here comes Jessie, knocking on my door like nothing's happened. Like she could just waltz back into my life. And behind me, James's shirt, like a silent accusation, like a warning I already ignored. Flashback end. A week later, Jessie had this relentless way of worming back into my life. Not pushy, not demanding, but patient, persistent in a way that gnawed at me. Every text she sent was carefully measured. I miss you. Even if we don't rush, I just want you around. Or, the family misses you too. Come over for dinner. No pressure, and I, stupidly, recklessly, kept replying. I hated myself for even considering it. Every instinct screamed, run, stay away, don't get involved. And yet, I had no choice. Jesse's mother had called me earlier that day, voice warm but insistent, and I'd known I couldn't say no. Anthony, she'd said, soft but firm. The family. We'd really like you to come for dinner. Just for a little while. It won't be awkward, I promise. Jessie, she's been asking about you. How could I refuse that? I owed her that much. I owed myself to at least show up. And so here I was, standing at their door, palms sweaty, chest tight, trying to act casual while my brain screamed, don't, just don't. So there I was, standing at her door on a Friday evening, trying to act like I was casual. I wasn't. My heart thudded like a drum in my chest, every nerve on high alert. She opened the door, and suddenly the room felt brighter. She was wearing that easy smile that used to make me weak, hair falling perfectly around her face, the kind of effortless beauty that made you forget how much it hurt. Hey, she said softly, like she hadn't just destroyed months of careful avoidance. You made it. Dinner was almost normal. Her parents asked polite questions. Her little sister laughed at something silly I said. Jessie's dog barked at my shoes. And yet, nothing was normal, because across the room, James moved like a predator. Calm, casual, but always there, always near. His presence made me tense in a way I couldn't hide. And it started immediately. The stolen touches. A hand brushing mine when Jessie wasn't looking. A shoulder bump that lingered a fraction too long. Eyes locking across the table with a fire I knew I wasn't supposed to feel. I had to tell myself to breathe, to act normal. But every brush of his sleeve, every tiny flicker of his gaze made my pulse spike. By the time dessert came around, I was sweating under my shirt, my brain split in two. Don't let her notice. But oh God, don't stop. Over the next few dinners, Jessie's observations sharpened. She noticed the way James defended me too quickly when her dad teased me about my job. The way he lingered near me in the kitchen when I went for the water. The way he would bend slightly, voice low, leaning just a little too close, whispering jokes that made me laugh when she wasn't looking. One night, she stopped me in the hallway, arms crossed, green eyes narrowing but soft, curious. Why does it feel like you two have a secret? Her voice was casual, but I could hear the suspicion hiding in the edges. I laughed nervously, running my hand through my hair, trying to sound light, easy. Secret? No, we're just friends catching up. That's all. James's jaw clenched behind me, his hand twitching like he wanted to reach for mine but couldn't. The tension radiated off him, almost physically. My chest was tight, my stomach in knots. Every instinct screamed, "Don't let her see. Don't let her know." But every glance from him reminded me just how impossible it was to resist. The guilt gnawed at me constantly. I hated that I wanted him. Hated that I could feel the electricity in his touch and not stop myself. Hated that it was already a danger waiting to explode. And of course, we slipped. It was a quiet Friday night. Jessie had fallen asleep on the couch, TV murmuring in the background down the hall. I had tried to retreat to the guest room, telling myself I needed to be just a guest. But the moment I stepped into the hallway, James was there, just standing, watching, waiting. Before I could even think, he was on me, hands strong, pulling me close, lips crushing mine in a kiss that burned through every restraint I had left. Heat, tension, guilt, and desire all collided in one devastating rush. "I can't stop thinking about you," he murmured, his breath hot against my neck. "Not like this. Not ever." I knew it was wrong. God, I knew it. Her brother, my ex's family, everything screamed don't. But the pull was irresistible. Every nerve in me responded, body betraying brain, leaning into his touch, tangling with his, fingers gasping against his lips. And then came dinner the next night. Trying to act normal, I sat across from him, Jessie oblivious. James's hand found mine under the table, brushing against my thigh, fingers teasing. My body froze before my mind could think. Jessie's head turned slightly, just enough. Her sharp eyes flicked down at the sudden stiffness in my leg, then up at James. Suspicion flared, subtle but present. I yanked my hand back under the table, forcing a laugh, pretending nothing had happened. James's jaw tightened, eyes darkening in warning. My chest burned with guilt and adrenaline all at once. I knew we couldn't keep this secret for long, but just as much, I knew I didn't want to stop. Every touch, every glance, every stolen whisper felt like fire on my skin. Dangerous, forbidden, but impossibly addictive. Later that night, I couldn't do it anymore. The guilt sat on my chest like a boulder, heavy, suffocating. Every time James looked at me, every brush of his sleeve, every subtle smirk, it made my chest twist, my stomach curl, my pulse spike. I had to stop. I had to. That night, after Jessie had fallen asleep on the couch, the TV murmuring softly down the hall, I found him in the kitchen, pretending to casually pour himself a glass of water. I wasn't fooled. He knew why I was there. He always knew. "James, we need to stop. I can't... This can't go on," I said, my hands trembling as they gripped the edge of the counter. My voice cracked despite my attempt to sound firm. He froze. That's when I really saw him. His face cold, jaw locked, eyes dark and sharp, scanning me like he could read every secret thought I tried to hide. "You mean, you'd rather live a lie with her than risk the truth with me?" I didn't answer. I hated myself for even thinking about Jessie, pretending everything was fine, burying this secret under smiles, under casual conversations. It should have been enough. But the moment I stepped into my apartment, the walls felt suffocating. The bed was empty, the sheets cold. Every corner of the apartment seemed to whisper, "He's not here." I missed him. I missed James in ways that made my chest ache and my stomach twist. I replayed the feel of his hands on mine, the brush of his lips against my neck, the heat of his gaze following me like a warning. I hated myself for wanting him, and yet, I wanted him more than anything. The days that followed were a slow torture. I went through the motions with Jessie, texting her back, laughing at jokes I barely heard, playing the role of a friend who was safe to rely on. I avoided James at all costs. I told myself it was for the best. But every time my phone buzzed, my stomach lurched. Every flash of memory hit me like a punch. His hand brushing mine under the table, the teasing ghost of his lips on mine. The way he looked at me when he thought I wasn't watching. The heat, the intensity, the raw claim in his eyes. I tried to convince myself it was safer this way. Safer to bury him. Safer to pretend I could live without the obsession, the danger, the forbidden fire. But the truth hit like a freight train. I didn't want safe. I didn't want normal. I wanted him. Every nerve in my body, every heartbeat, every desperate thought screamed his name. And the ache in my chest and gut, the longing that felt like it would swallow me whole. It was unbearable. 2 weeks later. It happened at a family dinner. Jessie was there, laughing, animated, every gesture perfect. The surface was normal, but inside, my chest constricted the moment James walked in. The air seemed to thicken, my skin crawling with anticipation and panic all at once. His eyes found mine across the table. That look, the one that made my knees go weak, my heart race, ignited every nerve in my body. I forced myself to look down, pretending I wasn't burning alive. But then, it was there. Not a touch, not a whisper, just the air between us. Every time our eyes met across the table, the room seemed to shrink. The conversation around us blurred into background noise. Jessie laughing, her little sister chattering, the clink of cutlery. But all I could feel was him. The tension was thick, almost visible. My chest ached with it. Every glance from him was like a spark on my skin. Every movement he made, every subtle lean forward, pulled at me in ways I couldn't resist. My stomach churned with frustration. He was so close, so impossibly near, and yet so far. Even Jessie noticed. Her smile faltered, curiosity flashing in her green eyes. "Are you two fighting or something?" she asked, casual but pointed, as if she could sense the electric charge hovering between us. I laughed, too quickly, too loud. No. Just joking around, I said, trying to sound normal. James shrugged, lips twitching in a hint of something I couldn't read. But the ache in my chest didn't go away. Watching him there, so close I could almost reach out and feel him, yet restrained, impossible to touch. It hurt more than I expected. Every glance, every subtle shift of his body was fire on my skin. Dangerous, forbidden, and I was already scorched. I wanted him. I needed him. I hated myself for it, and yet I couldn't stop. Later that night. It was one of those nights that made my chest feel too heavy to breathe. Jessie was asleep on the couch, head resting on the throw pillow, her soft snores drifting faintly down the hall. I thought maybe I could reclaim some sense of control, untangle this mess of feelings before it consumed me entirely. But James, of course, had other plans. He leaned against the doorway, casual on the surface, but dangerous beneath, like a predator who had finally cornered its prey. His eyes locked onto mine, dark, intense, and impossibly magnetic. I could feel my pulse spike instantly, my stomach flipping, my hands itching to touch him even as I tried to resist. "Anthony, we can't do this anymore," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. My hands fidgeted with the hem of my shirt. I was trembling, every muscle on edge. "It's too dangerous. It's wrong. I can't keep sneaking around. I can't keep hurting her." For a moment, he said nothing. I thought maybe he would walk away. But then his face softened, an almost tender curve in his expression. And then it hardened again, jaw tight, eyes flashing with raw, uncontainable intensity. "Anthony, don't lie to yourself," he said, stepping closer, closing the distance in a way that made every nerve in my body flare. "You don't want it to stop. You're just scared. You think it's wrong. But it isn't. Not with me. Not ever. I hated him for knowing me so well. I hated myself for wanting him anyway." My chest tightened painfully. My lips tingled with memory of his kiss. My stomach quivered with longing. I was trapped between desire and morality, and every inch of me screamed that I would never escape him. A week passed, and the hunger for him only grew sharper. Jessie was upstairs, asleep, the faint hum of her TV lulling the house into false calm. I told myself I would keep my distance. I told myself I could be rational, that I could survive without touching him, without tasting him, without feeling the heat that burned between us. I failed immediately. He was there, waiting, calm as ever, but his eyes betrayed him. They were hungry, desperate, and impossibly soft all at once. I tried to turn, to walk away, to remind myself that every touch, every whisper was dangerous. Before I could move, he grabbed me, hands strong on my shoulders, pulling me into him like he couldn't breathe without me. His lips crushed mine, relentless, scorching, claiming. Heat and adrenaline surged through me, igniting every nerve. I can't stop thinking about you," he whispered, teeth grazing my earlobe, breath hot and intoxicating. I melted into him, hands roaming over his chest, over his back, my mind a mess of desire and guilt. Every rational thought fled. All that existed was him, and the ache that had been building for months. Forbidden, reckless, perfect, finally had an outlet. It didn't take long for things to spiral completely out of control. One night, James had me cornered in his room again, desperate, almost trembling. "I'm not straight." "Not with you. Not anymore," he said, eyes wide, chest heaving, raw need and truth shining in every word. "I love you, Anthony." I can't hide it. I opened my mouth, heart thundering, wanting to say I love you too, wanting to tell him every thought I'd been swallowing for months. And then the door burst open. Jessie froze, her face white, green eyes wide and glistening with shock. Her jaw dropped. The sound of her voice, sharp and trembling, cut through the room. "Oh my God, it's... you too?" The air seemed to vanish. My chest tightened. My heart slammed against my ribs. James instinctively moved in front of me, arms wrapping around my waist, shielding me. But the truth was already out. The room, the house, the secret we'd nurtured like a dangerous flame. Exposed. Her face crumpled, betrayal twisting her features. Every nerve in my body screamed panic, guilt, and desire all at once. I wanted to disappear. I wanted to curl into myself. I wanted to fight for him. But I couldn't. Not without hurting her even more. Screams erupted immediately. Jessie's voice cut sharp and jagged through the air, trembling, full of heartbreak and rage. "How could you? Both of you! How could you do this to me?" I reached for her. My hands shook. My voice broke. "Jessie! She flinched, recoil clear in her movements. My explanations felt hollow, meaningless in the hurricane of her emotion. James stood firm beside me, chest set, jaw tight, eyes unwavering. "You can hate me, Jess, but I'm not giving him up," he said quietly but firmly. Every word carried weight, intention, and impossibly sharp clarity. Tears streamed down her face, anger and betrayal mingling in raw, explosive waves. Every corner of the room felt like it was collapsing, every memory of the past months burning in flames of regret and truth. And yet, as I looked at James, the fire and desire and love in his eyes, I realized this wasn't just lust. This wasn't just attraction. This was real. Dangerous, consuming, worth every heartbreak, every risk, every ruin we'd caused. I took his hand, gripping tight, refusing to let go. He squeezed back, steady, sure, unyielding. Together we stepped into the open, fully exposed, consequences be damned. Jessie's sobs echoed behind us, but I didn't care. Finally, we were ours. Burning hot, impossible, untamed, and ours. A week later. A week after. Everything, the weight of it all was still pressing down on me. Jessie's parents had heard about what happened. Rumors reached them before anything could be explained. When we spoke on the phone, their voices were calm, measured, but I could hear the disappointment beneath. Not in a harsh, yelling way, but in the quiet sighs, the pauses, the way her father's voice wavered. James and I both knew they were trying to support us, even though this was a shock. James being gay, the affair, the betrayal. It was a lot to process. And yet, underneath it all, they wanted their children to be happy. Her mother's words lingered in my mind. "We may not understand everything, but we want you both to be honest and to be safe with each other. That's what matters." It hurt to hear the disappointment, to imagine the silent judgments. but it also gave me hope. We weren't completely alone. We met at our usual cafe a few days later. The cafe smelled like roasted coffee and warm pastries, a quiet refuge from the chaos outside. I slid into the seat across from James, and for the first time in days, the tension between us wasn't just desire. It was heavy, weighted with the guilt, the fallout, the unspoken ache of losing her. He stirred his coffee, eyes dark, lips tight. "She's leaving." "London." "Aunt's place," he said finally, voice low, almost fragile. I don't know what to do, Anthony." The words hit me like a fist. James's chest rose and fell quickly, restless fingers tapping on the table. He wasn't just worried about Jessie. He was worried about losing his sister, losing the connection they'd always had. And yet, he was sitting here, with me, tangled in the aftermath of everything. I don't know," he admitted, voice rough. "It hurts, losing her like this. I love her, and I don't want to hurt her, but I also love you, and I don't know how to deal with both." My heart thudded painfully. I wanted to reach across, to pull him close, to tell him it was okay, that we'd figure it out together. But even as I stared at him, I felt that ache too. The ache of seeing him so close, yet burdened with something I couldn't fix. I reached out, placing my hand over his. His eyes softened instantly, and he let out a shaky breath. "I don't want her to hate me," he whispered, "but I also don't want to lose you. And I feel like I'm doing both." "James," I said softly, voice catching, "you're not losing me. And you're not losing her either. We'll figure it out. One step at a time." He nodded, squeezing my hand just a little, grounding me, keeping me tethered. We sat there like that for a long while, the quiet hum of the cafe pressing around us, warmth from the cups in front of us, hearts heavy but somehow tethered together in the middle of the chaos. "I love you," he said finally, almost breaking. "I know," I whispered back. 3 days later. The day came faster than I wanted. Airport lights glare harshly off the polished floors, luggage rattling, announcements echoing over everything. Jessie's flight was in a few hours, and I could feel her tension radiating, stiff and cold. James and I fell into step beside her, trying to make conversation, small talk, anything to break the heaviness. "Jessie," I started, but she shook her head. "No, don't. I just can't." Her voice was firm, but not cruel. She wasn't angry. She wasn't full of hate. She was just broken, needing space. I swallowed the lump in my throat. "I know. I just want you to know we're not doing this to hurt you. I love you, and James loves you too. But I understand if you need time." She looked at us both, eyes glimmering. "I can't forgive. Not yet. But I won't hate you either. I just need time." James's hand brushed mine lightly. He looked at me with that familiar intensity, raw, comforting, unwavering. I squeezed. His hand, feeling the ache in my chest, knowing we were losing her, but that some part of her would always be with us somehow. Jessie was gone, and just like that, the weight of her absence hung in the air. The ache of losing her lingered, but it was quieter now, replaced by a different kind of tension, one that pulsed between James and me like electricity. He let out a long breath, his thumb brushing over mine. That familiar intensity in his eyes, the raw, unwavering, comforting intensity, fixed me to the spot. His gaze burned into me, patient, demanding, and full of longing all at once. "I need to know something, Anthony," he said, voice low, almost shaking. "I need to know how you feel about me. Truly. I don't want you with me out of guilt, or because you feel forced, like you were with Jessie. I need the real answer. Tell me, do you really love me?" My chest tightened, words catching in my throat. The truth had been there, simmering under every stolen touch, every ache, every night I dreamed of him. Now I didn't hesitate. "Yes," I breathed, voice trembling. "I love you, I've always loved you. More than I should, maybe. But I do. I can't stop. I don't want to stop. I love you, James. His expression softened in a way that made my knees weak. Relief, happiness, and something fiercer, a possessive, burning need, flickered across his face. Before I could even process it, he leaned across the table, cupping my face with both hands. His lips found mine, slow at first, testing, then harder, hungrier, claiming. My hands went to his chest, fingers digging into him as if grounding myself, reminding myself he was real, here, ours. The airport melted around us. There was only us. The ache of the past, the guilt, the forbidden tension, all of it finally released in that one perfect, shattering kiss. I wrapped my arms around him, pulling him closer, tasting every emotion, every confession, every longing in that kiss. And for the first time, I didn't feel guilty. I didn't feel afraid. I felt home. 3 years later. The airport was buzzing. The hum of travelers, luggage wheels clacking against polished floors, announcements echoing overhead. But none of that mattered. All I could feel was the fluttering in my chest, the wild anticipation that made my palms sweat and my stomach flip. James gripped my hand tightly, our fingers laced like they had been 1,000 times before. But today, the grip had a sharper edge of excitement. I could see it in his eyes, the same intensity that had stolen my breath years ago, now calmer, warmer, but still as electric as ever. "Are you ready?" he asked, voice low, teasing just a little. His thumb brushed over mine, sending sparks through me. I laughed, nervous, my heart hammering. As ready as I'll ever be. I can't believe she's finally back. He squeezed my hand again, grinning. "You mean, we can finally see her together. I'm just hoping she brings her charm and her boyfriend doesn't get weird about you and me." I rolled my eyes, smiling. "He'll be fine. He's good. Trust me." The crowd parted, and there she was. Jessie Thaler, confident, radiant in that way only she could be. And yes, she was holding hands with a guy, but the instant she saw us, her face lit up. "Anthony! James!" she called, waving. Her green eyes sparkled, no hint of tension or resentment, just warmth. She moved quickly, hugging both of us in turn. James leaned close to me, whispering with a grin. "You ready for this?" I laughed, the nerves finally melting away. "I've been ready my whole life." Her boyfriend stepped up, shaking our hands confidently. "Hi, I'm Max." "Heard a lot about you too," he said, eyes twinkling. Polite, charming, easygoing. Relief washed over me. He was good, really good. Jessie elbowed her brother lightly. "Don't even think about stealing this one too, James," she teased, laughing. Her voice had that familiar warmth, the teasing edge of someone comfortable and happy. James laughed, mock-offended, glancing at me. "Noted." "I'll behave." Mostly I grinned, pulling him closer. Our eyes met and sparkled, a silent confirmation. We were ours, fully, completely, and happily. We spent the next hour catching up, jokes flying, stories swapping. Jessie laughed easily, no shadows of the past lingering. James and I whispered little jokes to each other, playful touches, fingers brushing, hearts full of that same burning connection. But lighter now, healed, open. I caught his gaze across the terminal at one point, the memory of every stolen touch, every dangerous kiss, every night of hidden passion. It all flashed for a moment, and then it was gone. Replaced by this, calm, happy, exhilarating love. Jessie raised an eyebrow at us, smiling knowingly. "You two really are ridiculous together." I laughed, James's hand, covering mine, squeezing lightly. "We know," he said, grinning, "and we love it." Jessie smiled, shaking her head, and for the first time since all the chaos, I felt the world was right. Her presence didn't sting. It was warm, full of joy, and everything had fallen perfectly into place. We were in love, fully, freely, happily. And for the first time, Nothing else mattered. The end. Would you risk everything for the one person you weren't supposed to want? Thanks for watching. Subscribe to become part of our Rainbow Force and consider joining our membership for early access and exclusive content. Stay wholesome